All right, there we go. Made it live. Got a great question just now, and I wanted to do a video response to it because I felt like it warranted a response so that everyone could see, because the questions are pretty good. They're fantastic questions that I have gotten before, and I will definitely get again, and I have a feeling you're not the only one going through that question in their head. So let's talk about the questions. And let's break down, there's 3 questions. Let's take them one by one. And the first question is this. Would you say it's more important to get code working and then refactor instead of trying to write an elegant solution from the beginning? To address this first question, I almost always will tell you and always give the advice of it is way more important to get something working, because far too often in an interview, which I do a lot of, people will go for this elegant solution and won't be able to achieve it in the allotted amount of time. More often than not, there is a time constraint with this. So if you're on a time constraint and you're trying to go for the elegant solution and all of a sudden you can't get it to work because your iffy isn't working or your logic broke down somewhere because you went for this badass solution right off the bat, well, great, that's fantastic. You showed me you've got high hopes, but you still can't code, or so it appears potentially. And that happens a lot. And I hate when that happens because it's like, no, this problem just needs a for loop with a counter. And as long as you do that, you can refactor from there. Or maybe 2 for loops, just loop over twice if you have to. I don't care. Show me you understand the logic of what needs to happen to get this to work, because it's easy to become really good at refactoring. I find that that's an easy skill to pick up. When you study a bunch of other people's solutions and study your own solution, that's a skill that can come with time, not a problem. Now, overall, I will always answer and tell you to get something working because it's best for the interview, it's best for productivity at work, and then baby step and chunking. You've heard me in previous videos talking about chunking and baby steps. And actually that Tiny Habits site out there talks specifically about these baby steps. So it's absolutely crucial to do that. It's a great habit, fantastic to do. So I will always lean towards build and then refactor. And even then in an interview, you don't even have to refactor. You can ask the interviewer, I'd like to do this to it. They'll tell you yes or no. So it can also save you time by going that route. Now, let's talk about the flip side of this question, because there's always 2 parts, right? There's always like, this is a great answer for this side, but what about this scenario? Because now it's the other side. So another scenario, what scenario would work where you need to write elegant code from the very beginning? This is the scenario where I will stand behind elegant code from the beginning. If you are working at work and you have a set strategic guide to how you're going to code, implement the whole ecosystem you work with. If there's a specific way you write functions, if there's a specific way you test, and it is all laid out for you, ready to rock and roll, there is no like you need to go figure out the styles, the method, the tests, the ideas, the styles, the standards, it's all set in stone for you, then I would say don't ever start with just getting the code working from scratch. I mean, I still lean towards it a bit, but I'll say this. In that scenario, like prime example, an Airbnb style guide, if you've ever seen one of those, go look up the Airbnb JavaScript style guide. It is fully fleshed out. There are no questions in that style guide of how to write your code. Like it is set in stone. You want to write an if loop or a for loop with a nested loop in it, I don't know, 2 nested loops and stuff. They'll talk about what to do and what not to do. They'll talk about how to write your conditionals. They'll talk about space. They'll talk about everything to where if you know what the problem has in store for you, you can just follow that guide and build out the elegant solution from the beginning, which will save you time, which is great. Normally not realistic, but when someone has gone ahead and done that much work ahead of time for their team and their styles and their guide and their company, well, then I would say elegant from the beginning. So there's 2 sides to that question. More often than not, you will likely fall on the get it working, then refactor. Double check if you need to refactor first, and then if the other scenario is the opposite, then you go for elegant first. All right, second question. Would you say that programming is similar to mathematics in that if you approach it correctly, you can do most of the work in your head? This is an interesting question. I really like this because I can, and I imagine I'm not the only one out there, and neither is the person who asked this question. It's a great question because I feel as though that is the absolute truth. I love to do mathematics in my head. It's one of those things when I started understanding numbers better and how certain algorithms work and things can just flow. If you think about them properly ahead of time, you can do a lot of this in your head and just go, oh, okay, now I know, and just start going to town. So yes, I found that it is. Now, flip side, there are people who don't think they don't think through mathematics like that. It's not a head thing, it's a write it down thing, and that's fine. So you can do it in your head if you want to, or you can write it down. Well, that's where pseudo coding comes in and does really well for a lot of people. But in general, with this question, I approach it that same way. I more often than not kind of think out solutions in my brain to then go, okay, yeah, that would work. I need 2 for loops, so I do that, and I put the context here, and I use a bit of the hoisting and some closure. Okay, yeah, okay. And then I will go fully write out my logic after I've kind of thought through it in my brain, similar to the process of working with mathematics. So yes, you can absolutely do that. In an interview, though, it is worth putting your thoughts down or talking at them out loud so that someone else understands where you're coming from. But yes, you can do that. So that's the second question. Third question, will we always be doing input, then output, then pseudocode, and then actual coding when we approach problems? There are variations. I'm not going to go over all of them now because there's a lot of different variations. It's much like when someone tells you the interviewing technique of CAR or PAR or STAR. They're all the exact same thing. And what I mean by that is like CAR, challenge, action, result. PAR, problem, action, result. STAR, situation, task, action, results, or STAR, situation, task, action, results. Yeah, that. It's all the same way to skin the cat, the exact same way, all of them. Now, when we talk about this is very similar because more often than not, you have to know your input, you have to know the output. It's a good idea to pseudocode and then the actual code. It's a general approach that I would encourage anyone to follow because you won't generally go wrong with it. There's other things you can add to it, but you generally won't go wrong with that approach. It's pretty fundamentally sound because you're going to have to think about the beginning and the end, and then you're going to pseudocode out the middle, and then you're going to code over the entire process. So yes, generally, that's the approach you'll be doing. And it's perfectly fine to follow. If you have different ideas to change it, by all means, try it. There are variations to this that you can do. And if you're interested, I can cover that in another video. But overall, to answer all 3 questions in summary, I urge you to write code in baby step format, little by little, and write code to get it working. Then to ask if you need to refactor if you're in an interview setting, or if you're not, just generally refactor. Only try to shoot for elegant if you have defined styles and standards to follow. Yes, I would say programming is similar to mathematics, and you can actually program this out in your head if you can think like that. Not everyone can, so if you can't, that's okay. Go to writing it down and trying some other tactics out. And last but not least, more often than not, the general approach that you will generally be following is knowing the input of something, knowing the output, knowing the input, knowing the output, pseudocoding the whole thing, and then programming the entire solution. That is the general gist and the approach you will be following to solving problems. Now, and actually it's a very good one to follow. Now that's it for us today. I enjoyed the questions. If you guys have more questions like this, feel free to ask me. More than happy to do a quick video on it. I love these great questions. I know other people are having them too. I see a comment there from Douglas. Looks like my worst nightmare is getting the code working in a dream, but not being able to save before waking up. Oh, that's classic. I seriously can relate. That is awful dream. I am so sorry you've had that because I can I can empathize with that so hardcore because I've had those dreams too where it's like the save button's not working. What's going wrong? You wake up and don't remember the solution to the problem, and you actually worked on a real solution in your sleep. It's a terrible thing to experience, so I can understand. I hope you guys enjoyed these questions today. I know I did. If you have more, feel free to put them in there. If you want to jump on a 30-minute session with me, there will be a link on the actual Jason Humphrey page. The group coaching is coming along. This Thinkful course, if you're a Thinkful student and watching this, the Thinkful course for free, totally free, will be out within the next week. Lots of cool stuff here happening. If you have any comments, questions, chats, whatever concerns, feel free to reach out. We will be in touch. Have a great rest of your day. And until next time, signing off.